Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of Dialogue Horizon. In this episode, we will break what we used to have, the series of dialogue about the financial and the economic situation of the country and the developments. We will break it by an important event, which is the failure of the negotiations of the GERD, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. So this is the developing story this time. So we are going to have this episode fully dedicated to the issue of the GERD and its repercussions and implication and controversy on the different aspects of the political arena. I'm glad that's why we are hosting this episode two important gentlemen. First, we have our friend Dr. Osman Al-Tom. Osman Al-Tom graduated 1971 University of Khartoum as civil engineer, and since that time, the same, by the way, the same batch of University of Khartoum. Since that time, his graduation, he worked in the Ministry of Irrigation and primarily on the dams section, till it culminated at the end of his career as the Minister of Irrigation of Sudan. Also, we have our important engineer, also civil engineer, Mohammed Farouk Salman. He's an activist, and he's a, besides he's an engineer, he's a political activist in the revolution. And because our talk will cover both sides, technical and political. So I'm glad to start the dialogue with Dr. Osman Al-Tom. Osman Al-Tom wants you to give us the latest development for the reasons of the failure of the talks in Congo, which was headed by the President of the African Union, the President of Congo, last week. So what was the reason for this failure, and what are your expectations to the resumption of talks?
Thank you very much, Engineer Omar Al-Bakri Abu Haraz. I think one of the reasons why the negotiations failed is the preparation even for the meeting. The meeting was supposed to be 3 days. The first day was supposed to be on the how to conduct the negotiations itself. It was supposed to be done only for the first day, and then spend the second and third day on the issues that are still pending to be solved. Unfortunately, the 3 days were all on the process of the negotiations, especially the introduction of facilitators. It is usual when there are conflicts, and especially represented by 3 countries, that when each country digs in their position, that you look for a facilitator, a neutral facilitator with some influence on the parties. Unfortunately, this idea was brought by Sudan. Unfortunately, it was not accepted by Ethiopia, although it was backed by Egypt. But this was an unfortunate event, and it took the whole 3 days just moving around in this issue. I think this is one of the reasons why there was a failure. They did not even agree on writing the minutes of the meeting.
So it's complete failure.
So
okay, Dr. Osman, so this is a good start so that we can ask our engineer, Mohammed Farouk Salman. Having heard Osman Tom, that says one of the reasons is that the preparation was not properly done, and people who started, they lost a lot of hours in accepting the mediators or whatever. What can you add to this, and what are your expectations to the future? Is this the end of the whole thing, or you expect some pressure from different parts of the world for the 3 countries to sit again?
Sure, it will not be the end of the whole thing, because the dam is there, the project in progress, and how it will affect and influence the 3 countries will be a reality very soon. But let us come to the preparation. Why we are not well prepared to negotiate the dam. I think this related to the political status in the three countries, how the perspective they look to such project. Because if we look at such mega projects that actually crossing borders by its effect and by its outcomes, this should be done in two models, either a competitive way that conflict will rest, or an integrated model that all can work it out through win-win situation. And I guess in the beginning of this dam, Mellit Nawi was proposed for the Egyptian and Sudanese government to participate in financing and administrating and managing the dam, because the three countries actually will benefit, and they should also manage the risk that could come out of this dam. But due to the political status, I think, in Egypt at that time and in Sudan, and how was Ethiopia actually committed to the project as one of the major exit for them for many development aspects, because it been promoted as a power dam for Ethiopia itself. They never entered the issue of share of water for Ethiopia at that times. Now this occurred, by the way. I think there are many changes happen in the three countries, by the way, not only on the Ethiopian part. Ethiopia have its inside conflict. The dam itself become emotional project for all Ethiopian. It's after the last civil war and after what happened in Tigray zone, and how the Ethiopian people are so divided nowadays because of the political situation there, and the status came out of Abiy Ahmed actually raising in the power. There is many changes, and the only thing that all Ethiopians now are bonded around is this dam, by the way. And I recall when the start of this war, civil war inside Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed accused the TPLF that they are trying to hit the dam, and immediately Debretsion actually denied this and said, we are the guys who started. So you can see that inside Ethiopia, the project is not just a development project. Now it's become like a political speech or discourse, something all of Ethiopian people is around it. And for the first time, Ethiopia will benefit from this popularism speech from the Egypt side, because also for the Egyptian, if we want to talk about their rights in the water, and if we look at how this is very crucial for them to have the River Nile is the only source for water for Egyptian. It's not a matter of, if you look at Sudan or Ethiopia, how many alternatives that we have, and actually for Ethiopia, it's less than 10% for their use there. For here in Sudan, most of these projects in Sudan actually, most of the agricultural schemes are rain-fed. We benefit very minimum, by the way, from even our share from the Nile agreement that giving us the 18. And this is one of the reasons that also Sudanese people could benefit from the dam, that they can access their whole quota from the Blue Nile, I guess, due to the Millennium Dam. Egypt always, the strategy that they adopt for the negotiation regarding the dam, they don't want deal closer. Always they just object, and they never bring to the table any reason for why they do have this veto against this. And they go back to many agreements that made even since 1902. Everyone is saying it and bringing it again, that Benishangul region was given to Ethiopia in a condition that they build no dams on the Blue Nile in their borders, inside their borders. But I don't think we can rely on a 100 years ago perspective to think that it will be
Applied.
active up to now or applied up to now. Changes should happen, evolution also, and the population and the need of the people also change. I recall the late Marghani
Hamza.
Hamza, the first Sudanese irrigation minister, who was at early time called for having like a Nile Basin study colleague or institute, because from that time he was so strategic. He is a visionist. He looked at
He had a vision.
the status of the resources of water and considered it as limited, while he was seeing the demand of the people are expanded. So he called not only Sudan and Egypt, by the way, at that time, he called for the whole basin countries to do like an institute for water studies to see how we can all share and manage this resource, this valuable and precious resource, for the benefit of all of the people. Because
That's
the
very
most gift, I guess, I think, and managed by God, and this is how we are being distributed among this basin. We cannot say 120 million Egyptians stay on the far north of this basin, and we can say to them, now things change rapidly from how it was natural to something man-made, and you will not have the same. This cannot be fair by any means, because the demographic could be changed historically if it wasn't like if it was like this now. And
Yes, okay.
this should be considered, by the way.
That's very good. Okay, Muhammad Farouk. That's very good. Okay, if you go back to Dr. Osman Atom, one of the issues raised, sometimes the Ethiopians, they raised an issue which was mentioned by Professor Yasser Abbas, Minister of Irrigation, about reconsidering the shares of the Blue Nile, which is not accepted definitely by Sudan or Egypt, and also, do you have an idea whether the African Union, did they come up with any proposal for being mediators? Usually mediators, they should have some proposal alternatives. Did they come on the failed meetings? Did they come by any proposals? So tell us first about the new call of the Ethiopian to reconsider the distribution of the Nile water by agreement of 1929 and 2059.
Yeah, first of all, I think this is just some sort of a tactic in the negotiations.
Yeah.
The Blue Nile in Ethiopia can only be used for hydropower generation. It cannot be used for any irrigation or any other use, because as it emerges from Lake Tana to Tis Isat Falls, about 10 kilometers, then it goes into a very deep gorge. This gorge, in some places, it is 2 kilometers deep. So there is no possibility that you can build any dam that you can use it to irrigate the plateau up there. It can only be used for hydropower generation, and this is known since the Bureau of Reclamation study in 1964, that there are 4 proposed dams. One of them is the border dam, which is now the Gerd Dam. And even in the Declaration of Principles, there is no mention at all of
the shares of
sharing of water.
Maybe they want to sell it or what? But if
they
you earmark, if you say, let us say, if you say to them that okay, we accept to redistribute the whole distribution. Okay, we'll have 25%. Okay, we cannot use it, but it is ours, so you have to pay for it.
Yeah, this reminds me, Engineer Omar, during the Nile Basin negotiations, one of the Ugandans, when we were taking tea in a break, told me that was in 2001. He told me that now you have oil, now we are going to sell water for you. And we are just joking. I told him, how much are you going to, how much 1 cubic meter of water? He said $3. And I said to him, from the Sudanese side, I agree to that, but I have a condition. He said, what is your condition? I told him that you just give us the amount of water that we ask for. If you give us 1 cubic meter more, you have to pay $5. He said, why are you saying that? I told him that, you know, at that time, Sudan was one country. The South did not move out.
Separated.
Yeah. I told him that, you know, this sad area, 5 years, we don't need one drop of water from you. Keep it to yourself. We want to make them ranches like America. And he laughed, because what is he going to do with it? Now, somebody was asking me that if they want us to pay for it. I told him that, so if we say that we are not going to pay, what are they going to do with the water? If they want to generate water, to generate power, the water has to pass through the turbines. And when it passes through the turbines, it will come to us. So maybe we are going to penalize them in the same way that I have said to the Ugandan, that you are giving us too much water, we don't need it. Keep it to yourself. And then they will be in a difficulty. There is no way.
So it's a kind of
Tactic in negotiations. Yeah. But I would like, if you don't mind, Engineer Omar, I'd just like to support my colleague here. I think there is a magnification of the whole issue. In Egypt, they are portraying it as a matter of life and death. It is not. It is a hydropower dam that, as I have explained just now, the water comes, turn the turbines, and then it goes downstream. The only loss is the evaporation loss, which is minimal compared to what we lose in the high dam. This is only 2 billion cubic meters of evaporation in GERD, while it is 10 in the high dam.
This one is 10.
Yeah, and even this 10, because of filling GERD, the level in the high dam is going to drop a little bit. And when it drops, then the evaporation losses will be less. So maybe it will be 8. So again, you are gaining 2. So what we have lost as evaporation in GERD, you are gaining it as decrease of evaporation in the high dam. The other thing, in the Ethiopians, they are portraying it as a matter of national pride. So they are making life very difficult for the negotiators. It is very difficult to sell any agreement, either to Egypt or to Ethiopia. What Engineer Mohammed has said is true, that at one time, Meles Zenawi came with this idea at the very beginning that the 3 countries should share and in the cost. I think that was a mistake by Sudan and Egypt. Actually, Egypt refused and Sudan refused as well. If there was an agreement to share the cost, then automatically there is a right to be part of the management. Okay. But if it is totally paid by the Ethiopians, you will find it very difficult to ask them that we would like to be part of the
administration.
The administration, unless there is a package, a deal that you can use all the systems, starting from GERD up to the high dam as one system, and in that you need incentives for the Ethiopians to agree to that. They need to feel that they are better off with this harmonized operation of the whole system. So you need to have some projects which are shared by the countries, maybe by 2 or 3 countries, that we get power from them, and for Sudan specifically, and we give them food. Because this will be addressing the basic issue of sustainable development, regional integration, regional economic integration.
Okay, that's very good. Engineer Mohammed Farouk, yes, some political implications are, it seems that they are there, as Dr. Asma Tom is saying that. And you also mentioned that the 3 countries, such a mega project, there could have been some stability in all the region.
And rational.
And rational.
Speech, in the political speech.
But now this is a little bit is not available. But how can we go about it? Can you tell us about what the Emirates also mediated? They proposed something, but not
related to the dam.
But related to the crisis. Related to the crisis, which is now aggravated by the preparation of the operation, the Ethiopian operation, armed operation in the Tigray area, which is in the border with the Fashaga. So now both projects, both things, the GERD, the dam, and the Fashaga, it seems that they are started having some attachment to each other, or some relation. That's why maybe the Americans tried to mediate, but if they succeed on that, this could have also help in succeeding in the Renaissance Dam. Can you tell us about the relation? It's something a little bit sticky. What is the relation between the mediation of the Emirates on the issue of Fashiga with the GERD? Because it is
as I told you before, three countries are in the transitional political status. We are not democratized our life in Sudan or in Ethiopia fully, and Egypt as well. We know that the regime is coming now is after Arab Spring, and this is a long struggle inside Egypt, and this is why the political discourse itself is not always objective. Sometimes you need to address the fears of the people, not to enforce or to give them something that feel easy, or you have to make them always feel they are at risk. And this is, I think, one of the same problems that Ethiopia now engage in. The Ethiopia government is so large, actually differ from what in the days of Melis dealing with the dam. And one of the most dangerous things, this is connection between the Fashaga and the dam, because the dam is there, and this is not like the border issue, which is something I think should be sorted, and it is not an ongoing problem. It should be sorted out and should not be there after we sort it.
No after effect, not like
no,
the dam.
not like the dam, which we have to deal with it for the rest of our coexistence together in this region. I do believe, and this is reflect also the political conflict effect on such great projects. One of the fears that many Sudanese, and many, by the way, it's good to have Dr. Osman here, because he's one of the people who engage and involved, and let me just blame him and blame all of us as engineers that we didn't give our people a full information and transparent actually education about what's the real benefit for Sudan, what's the dam. Also, people repeated rumors like, what if the dam is fell down, and how we can deal with the 80 billion cubic meter of water that will marry all of Sudan up to Shandi. And we start to do nonsense speeches, because if you look at any projects like this, you don't assume that it's not being built efficiently and being all the measurement being made for the any effect. By the way, generally dams to be executed, there's a limited number of firms that do all these studies, not something that anyone can just go for it and invest billions of dollars without an efficient and effective structural studies and even environmental studies. And there is two schools, I think, in the world now. There are people that actually don't agree on the Millennium Dam at all. And this is another perspective, but this will not include any hazard or risk that could come out of structural problem or the probability of falling down of such a project. We shouldn't think like this, I think. We should consider this being built effectively and efficiently and in competent way, because this is how mega project being done, by the way. Yeah. I don't like to include the Fashaga problem on this, because as I said before, this will feed these fears, because now Ethiopia will ask for a Fashaga. If you don't agree, they're going to merge us on the water, because they have a weapon now that can use against Sudan. And again, we can go back all the way now. People, integration is something that actually we can say influence everywhere, as well as poverty and corruption that you can see. Region can grow with each other. We should consider we are living on the same area of this globe, and we should know that we share these resources together. And as a joke, he said, Dr. Osman, that if you want to give me the water for the money, then if you give me more This is
what
just, yeah, you have to pay for the more that I can get. This is just like Venice Merchant, if you remember, for the Jewish, and that you can take the meat, but you don't have to take any drop of blood. Yeah. And I wish, I really wish, if Sudan came out of this emotional things, came out of also thinking of being side or doing a role of mediator. We are part, and we have the same actually interest like Ethiopia and Egypt. Whatever how our part of this interest, it should be addressed, and it should be addressed in an objective way. We should stop talking like this. And I hope if the government, there is one of the things that actually make Sudanese, this is the only new thing, because for a long time Sudan actually was supporting the Millennium Dam. They have nothing against it.
Since it starts, yes.
Yeah. And I knew yesterday by accident that Sudan was the first country who participated in financing the Millennium Dam earlier by equipment for $20 million, and this unfortunately could not consider as a down payment for Sudanese share on the dam. And it's not late, by the way. Now we can discuss, because this is a debit for Ethiopia, how they are building the dam. Ethiopia, Sudan and Egypt, they can come back and negotiate the fairest offer presented by late Meles Zenawi, and how can they participate on the debit relief for Ethiopia, and how can they participate on the management and administration of the dam itself. By the way, Egypt, up to date, I think have their irrigation team on Jebel Aulia and Shajara, and they have their team that who monitor the flow of water even in Blue Nile, not only in the White Nile. I think you know this, Doctor. And this is how we can work, because this is a natural phenomenon that the life of people being based on it. So we should address it in a different way, I think, a scientific way. Also, I don't know why this is a division between all of us, if this something could be referred to technical and scientific vision and perspective that can keep rights for all together. This is one of the things that should come out. Again, this refers to the political status on the three countries. All of them want to benefit from this project for their own speeches and political discourse, rather than a development project that all of us actually can manage and can benefit out of it.
Okay. Look, Osman, I'll ask you a quick, complex question, actually question, very important. Now, having heard Mohammed talking that we are not transparent and people are confused, people in the Sudan, let us talk about Sudan. People are confused by the controversy in the analysis of different people. Osman Tom says something, another person says something. So we want you to give us, in brief, the merits and demerits and advantage of the GERD to Sudan. Plus, Professor Yasser Abbas, as a team leader before being a minister, he was completely with the construction of the dam. They assure that it has the benefits for Sudan. But now he's talking that the second feeling. Tell us also about the second feeling. How will it affect 20 million people? Now people are talking about this statement, and many people, they don't know how. I myself, I don't know how it will affect the second feeling, which will affect 20 million. So can you tell us first about the benefits, in nutshell, in precise?
First of all, let me just go behind for one specific point. The offer from Meles Zenawi. I could understand that the Egyptians refused to do that, because the Egyptians are against the dam itself. They don't want the dam to be built. But why did Sudanese at that time, or the authorities in Sudan at that time, went with this idea? Why not? Why they should have offered, and they have offered, as Muhammad has said, they have offered machinery, and they didn't even tell the people that they have offered that. The information came from Egypt, from Ethiopia.
From Ethiopia.
It's not from here. It could have been a down payment contribution
Construction.
in the construction. Later on, the Egyptians came with this idea, and Desalegn told them, "Oh, sorry, it is too late." So we have lost a golden chance. Okay, let us talk very briefly about the benefits of GERD to Sudan. GERD is going to regulate the flow in the Blue Nile and in the main Nile as well. So we will not have floods from now on, and we are not going to have a recession. So the level in the Blue Nile and even in the main Nile is going to drop during the flood season by at least 2 meters. And the level is going to rise by at least 2 meters during the summer period. So the fluctuation, instead of being 9 meters, it will be about 4 or 5 meters. This will allow Sudanese to have pumps which are huge. You are an electrical, mechanical engineer, and you know this well. Instead of irrigating 30 faddans, they can irrigate 300, maybe even more. And they can go for the higher terraces, and Sudan could be green. To my estimation, 15 kilometers from on both dams can be done. This is assisted by, from now on, after the GERD, you don't need big dams. You need barrages in Sabaloga, in Shirek, in Dal, and in Kajbar. So just to raise the level of the water within the channel itself, and then take canals from the right side and the left side and irrigate the area.
Like the Gadira project.
Yes, exactly like what
Egypt
is happening in Egypt.
Before
After the High Aswan Dam, Najah Hamadi and all the others, and even the Al-Qanat al-Khairiyya there. Just you have a barrage that will raise the level. It doesn't go to the banks. And then you take 2 canals, one on each side, and you irrigate. Sudan has very flat, fertile land, and you can go to any extent. And this can be shared with our neighbors, whether it is Egypt, Ethiopia, or even the Gulf countries, or even beyond. And Sudan could be a real basket for the world in this, if we go on this track. And this is very important, I think, to have this vision, to go and to trace this vision and try to follow it. You wanted me to talk about the second feeling. First of all, there was a full agreement about in 2018. There was technical people, experts from the 3 countries, who sat together for about 2 months in the different locations, and they agreed on the stages of filling, the first filling of GERD, and they have agreed on the first and second stage that these should go, because the first and second stage is what we call the dead storage of the dam. That is the storage which is reserved for siltation. It is not going to be used for power generation. So for that one, they have agreed to it. So in principle, the first stage, which happened last year, and the second stage, which is going to happen this year, in principle, there was an agreement on them. But there was a condition that there has to be a program detailing how this is going to be done, when it is going to start, the filling, when it is going to end, how much water is going to be released each and every day. And this is important for Sudan. It's not important for Egypt. It is important for Sudan because Sudan is depending on the natural flow before. Now it is a controlled flow, and so Sudan needs the amount of water which is released to Osiris Dam every day, so that the people there can manage the system according to that. This is what is needed. Unfortunately, up to now, Ethiopia did not agree to that. Now, in the last negotiation, they are saying this. My personal point of view, let us get this from them. Let us agree, even if it is a partial agreement. This is my own personal point of view. Let us agree with them that they give us the program, we negotiate the program, and we can have a mechanism how to follow exactly how this program is going to implement it. This is going to solve our problem
with Ethiopia.
with Ethiopia. Egypt cares about the amount of water that is going to reach them. And if you allow me, fortunately, last year the flood was exceptionally high, and it was 24 billion cubic meters more than the average flow. Those 24 billion cubic meters, they are now stored in the High Aswan Dam. So even the 13 and a half is already banked there. So, and even the 10 and a half, which is supposed to be stored in Gerd the next year, or the third stage, is still there, because if you add them, they are 24. So Egypt and the High Aswan Dam is not going to be affected by the second stage and the third stage. Fortunately enough, even the White Nile is going to bring a lot of water, because Lake Victoria is rising now, and the effect, we started to feel it in Jabal Awliya, and is going to continue for at least 1 year. So there are, God
Compensation.
gave us the compensation for this. So I think for the Egyptians, they should think of it like that. They should say that, and they should tell their people, we are not going to suffer as, it is very difficult for them, I know, because it has been magnified, and everybody is saying that this is a matter of life and death. But gradually, and this is why they don't, when they start negotiating, talking to us in the media, they don't bring engineers, because if they bring engineers, we will tell them this is a hydropower dam, it's not going to use water, what are you afraid of? So I think the second filling, Sudan has taken some steps because of the lack of information from Ethiopia. They have taken some steps in changing the operation a little bit of Roseris and Jabal Awliya, catering for the drinking water and the water for irrigation. There will be, if we don't have any information from Ethiopia, there will be some shortage in hydropower generation. And even for that, the hydropower people and the electricity people, they know this because they have been told 2 months ago. There will be, especially in July, there will be some sort of a shortage in hydropower generation, so they should take care of it even from now. So the steps they were taken, they will cater for the issue. But if we get more information, it will make it easier. What we are targeting is to have some sort of a joint operation for the whole system. Ethiopia is going to benefit out of that, because as I said before, they can give us power and we can give them food. And so, and this is important for the Ethiopians. They don't work on tit for tat. They work for tit for tat. So unless they feel that there are benefits out of what they are doing, they are not going to do it. So show them the benefit. Make this interim agreement about the second stage, and you solve this, and from it, the lessons learned during this second stage operation will help you for the following operations, because this one is the largest. This is 13 and a half. Later on, it will be 10 and a half, 10 and a half, up to filling the dam. So whatever you learn from this process, it will help you a lot in the coming processes.
What about the 20 million affected people by not giving them? I couldn't.
Yeah, because you are an engineer. Because you are an engineer. I don't know how to say it, but Ethiopians cannot cut the water from us, and they cannot submerge us.
Physically, they cannot do it.
They cannot, because the openings in the dam, first of all, when you are filling the dam, you cannot close everything. If you close everything, then the silt will accumulate, and it will, the 2 power stations below, they will be silted up. You are going to lose them. So nobody during filling is going to close everything. Nobody. Afterwards, when the whole thing, all the turbines are working, they will be alive depending on that. So there will be a lot of need or demand. And that demand, whether it is internal or external, will be a commitment. And therefore, you cannot, this is just like now, we cannot help any number of turbines not working in either Roseris or Marawi. They have 13 turbines. They cannot close the 13 turbines. Everybody will be shouting because people will be depending on what is generated from there. So there is no possibility of cutting the water. Okay, the other issue is not, some people talk about it, maybe Engineer Muhammad mentioned about it. There is no, they cannot drown us because the openings in the dam, and it has been designed like that, the openings in the dam can release, they cannot release all the flood. So every time, GERD is going to be impounding water, what we call compulsory storage. Because the gates, whatever they are, the 13 turbines, the 2 gates below, they can only pass a certain amount of water, about 400 billion cubic meters, 400 million cubic meters per day. And the flood, the normal flood is 600 million. So every time they have to store water. So the amount of water coming out of GERD is always less than the amount of water coming to GERD. And so there is no possibility that they are going to release more water than what is coming in the flood.
The flood, actually, this is very, very, very clear. Okay.
For you it is very clear because you are an engineer.
Mohammed Farouk, why do you think the Ethiopians, they are not, now from what Asma Tom said, I agree with him, that the conflict between us and Ethiopia is entirely different than the conflict between Ethiopia and Egypt. So it could have been better that if Sudan and Ethiopia, they sit together. In transparency, they sit together because we have problems not affecting Egypt. Like what he's saying, the coordination, pass of information, so that the resource dam is not affected, things like this. So it could have been a good idea that Sudan and Ethiopia alone, they sit together in transparency, in openness, so that we don't see there is a conspiracy against Egypt. This could be another. But why do you think the Ethiopians, they are rejecting categorically the involvement of parties or mediators like the United Nations, European Union, America, plus the African Union? So therefore, Ethiopia is rejecting this. Why do you think Ethiopia is not accepting these mediators?
I do believe the main reason now is how the dam for Ethiopian people now become like a national
issue, yes.
pride,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
for how it's become one of the political propaganda for the now regime and Abiy Ahmed regime. And this is one of the things that I blame Sudan government. We did not move when the conflict on Tigray zone started, before the war, before the civil war inside. We could enforce our mediation, as well as what Abiy Ahmed did after the sit-in massacre, Khartoum massacre. He came and he enforced his mediation.
Yeah.
And that was good from him, and we should at least pay them back, because how the situation is now, because war when it started, the whole problem that the war started for will be forgotten, and you will have a new phase of the problem that you are involved in. Ethiopia now being threatened by the European gift and donors will stop some sort of funding for Ethiopia federal government, and they are asking for investigation regard a war crime committed in Tigray zone, and this is not good. I think for we have to look for all of us. Stability and good and peaceful and united Ethiopia is good for Sudan, as well as united Sudan is good, and stable Sudan is good for Ethiopia, and same for Egypt. Let me be corrected by Dr. Osman. I think there is an agreement since 2018, and there was actually a mediation being done by the World Bank and the United States of America government now being refused by Ethiopia, and this is something new in Ethiopian stand, which really reflect how they want to use it in the propaganda more than they want to work it out on an objective way. And this is
Yeah.
Ethiopia problem, not Sudan, not even Egypt, by the way, because even Egypt agreed. I do believe that the estimation for the water flow from the Blue Nile was 48 billion cubic meter. Ethiopia was calling for having 30 million bust and
Yeah.
start to filling by the rest, whatever, if the season is, it could be more than 20, 23 as been last year, or it could be less, but they should allow 40. Egypt asked for 30 from the Ethiopian perspective. Egypt called for 40.
Yeah.
Only 8 billion per year could be
Yeah.
stored on the dam, and this will give a 10 years or 8 years according to the
Feeling,
the rain season or the water. They agreed both on, I think, 30. Sudan
37,
proposed
37.
35, and they agreed on 37. The three countries.
Yeah, yeah.
So the filling program we agreed on the three countries. We have an agreement on
About
that.
7 years or something like that.
So,
Yep, exactly. It could be 7 years if we consider the average of 48 billion cubic meter.
I think, Muhammad, this is a very genuine question, and we need to explain it for the viewers. The negotiations in Washington, to me, and even to the delegation from Sudan, which I was not part of it, was very good, and definitely for Egypt. Because an agreement in Washington is easy for the Egyptians to sell it to their people. This is coming from America.
Yes.
This is very important for them. They know that the dam is not going to affect them that much. When the agreement comes for America, they will say that this is America. It's not the
Ethiopia.
It gives them the idea. And it should have been the same for the Ethiopians. Unfortunately, the deal was very good, and Sudan agreed to it, and Egypt agreed to it. The Ethiopians said that let us go back and discuss it, and with our people. I don't know what happened there, but I think again, because of the conflicts in the country and the election, which is going to be in June, for all these troubles around, they couldn't sell it to the people there, and so they did not come to the meeting. Sudan did not initiate the meeting because the idea from Sudan is that the agreement has to be trilateral. The three countries have to agree, and they have their reasons for that. But they didn't. They say that they even did not sit with the Egyptians. They refused to sit with the Egyptians even for a photo, and they said that unless Ethiopia is on board, we are not going to convene any meeting or anything like that. I think that was a lost opportunity again. So I think, and I hope, you asked me about the African Union. I hope the African Union started from there, from what has been agreed in Washington, and build on it. Unfortunately, instead of going on this direction, they started going array. They even brought 11 experts who are highly qualified, especially in negotiations and settlement of dispute. And they didn't make use of them. They didn't make use of them. They came with a very nice proposal, but nobody took it further. It should have been taken further, that the three countries take it as a draft, and then they start negotiating on it, and so that they could use them as mediators or facilitators, and then they could reach the Ethiopians. They said that they just watch and listen, even for the Americans, even for the European Union. So they did not give them any role of mediation or facilitation. This is a very big thing. I don't know, but to my own perspective, Engineer Omar, is that they don't want an agreement. Both countries, and this is my own point of view, both countries, whether Egypt or Ethiopia, they don't want, this is not the right time for them to make an agreement for different reasons. So I think people, this is why I came with the idea that let us agree on the second stage and start, go on negotiating after that.
Okay. Then till both of you, we have about 5 minutes, which is I think quite good enough. I had to cover it by two issues. First, Mohammed Farouk, tell me about the effect of the conflict in the borders, Tigray and the Fashaga, on the negotiation at the dam. It has any effect, or it will something positive or good? If you mentioned that Sudan could have intervened or could have mediated
before the civil war started,
this could have
that could be good.
Tell us
but
about
we missed this opportunity.
And the other thing, the other question for you, the last other question about the construction, the stage of the construction of the Renaissance. Will it be satisfactory for the second feeling?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Let me just go fast. I do believe that any issue raised between Sudan and Ethiopia should not consider the Ethiopia, the Great Dams, as one of the negotiation tools. We should always try to put it aside of such things, because we are talking about a development project that is there, it's going to be there, and the conflicts are something actually we should sort it out. And Al-Fashaga, I think the Emirate proposal or mediating being given is not accepted, I don't believe, by even the transitional government. You see how it is. One of the problem also, I would love if the Sudanese government, because Sudan could be the wise side, because if we see historically, Egypt is against the dam from the beginning.
Yes.
And that was something Egypt should come out of it, by the way. They cannot address the whole interest of all people by their own fears, because they should accept for the right of, because as Dr. Osman is always repeating, this could be only a hydropower dam. It's not going to be an irrigation or water
consumption of water.
Or
yes,
consumption
no
of water. And Sudan and Ethiopia, for what's the situation now, the political inside conflict now, is addressing the issue that as they are not intended. As I said before, Egypt's strategy was no closed deal, no deal closure. They want this situation that being like this, it caused a problem in financing the project, also in bringing a proper technical support for the project and making the best use of it. And the second thing, I think we shouldn't be like, we shouldn't flame things out more, because we could be more reasonable. We could address it on a way that we can bring Egypt and Ethiopia together, because in many facts, more of the risk that everyone is talking about, Sudan will pay for it more than any other countries, by the way, by both countries. So we should change the strategy. I do believe that Sudan always doing a good role. Now we missed it, because this is a 180 degree on the Sudan position. Right. Actually, even us as people, we start to be hesitated because of the hesitation of the government. For the first time, we're listening a language like we have all the right to protect our, that will never be mentioned before. Are we fool for the whole that time that there is a real risk and hazard that could come out of this dam and we don't know about, and you are now start to raising it? This is not good, and we shouldn't use, because I think we have a conflict now inside Sudan, political conflict. The government want to use this language also in its propaganda. Propaganda, political propaganda should be taken out.
Okay, that's very good. Okay, tell us in 1 minute, we have about the construction, the stage of the construction. Will it allow for the second feeling?
Yeah, actually, this is a very good question coming from an engineer. And but it is a very difficult question to answer to somebody who is not an engineer. I will try to make it as simple as possible. There is the middle section from which the water now is coming out, that has to be built first, so that they can fill the second stage. Unless that is built, there is no possibility that there will be a second stage.
Second filling.
A second filling, yeah.
And this till now, this is not built, not yet built.
Yeah, it should be built from now up to the end of June. If they could succeed, there are so many difficulties in that. If they could succeed to build any wall, then the filling is compulsory, because the openings in the dam will not pass the
whole water.
Yeah, so there will be compulsory storage, and it will, the water will rise up to the end.
How tall is you?
Depending on the wall. If
Now they are 500.
Now the level is 560.
This is a built wall.
Yeah, and it should go up to 595.
95.
So it is about 35 meters, and
short.
it is not easy. It is not easy.
So if they fail to build it,
if they build it up to, for example, 580, for example, they could not reach to the top, and the flood came, then they cannot go even further, and water has to be stored up to that level, and then be passed over.
Like
Because the
spillway.
next flood has, yes, as a spillway. The next flood has to be passed. The openings in GERD are not capable of
passing all water.
They can only pass 200 million millimeter cube per day.
And the flood is 600.
Could be 600. So the other 400 will be impounded in the dam, and until they reach the top of the wall, the middle section, and then be passed over it.
Okay, that is very good. I think this is a very good conclusion for this dialogue, very interesting dialogue. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last hour with the two gentlemen. I'm very thankful to both of them, Dr. Osman Al-Toum, and is an expert in irrigation and ex-minister of irrigation, and engineer Mohammed Farouk Salman. He's also an activist, and he is also an engineer in civil. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last hour. Hope to see you next week in another Dialogue Horizon. Bye.